My name is Christy Jarrard, and this presentation is going to be focusing on my behavior change project in which I increased my cleaning behaviors. So throughout this presentation, we're going to first start off by, giving you a brief introduction in which I describe my ABCs, my antecedents, behaviors, and consequences that led me to the decision to focus on cleaning as my behavior change project. And then we're going to go into the methods more on like how this intervention actually took place. And following that, we're going to talk about the results, and I'm going to show you two graphs and kind of walk you through the narrative aspect, the personal side of this behavior change project. And then we'll do a little bit about the discussion and then talk about the conclusion, in which, the future implications and things along those lines. So to start us off, antecedents, behaviors, and consequences. So specifically, there's a lot of ABCs in this involved in this project, and the ones that are listed here, specifically looking at 1 through 3, they involve S deltas, so stimuli that do not invoke the desired behavior, but instead are followed by a problem behavior. So looking at number 1, so the antecedent was noticing there's a pile of dishes in the sink. The behavior was avoiding the kitchen and doing schoolwork instead. And the consequence that followed all this was an annoyance that there were somehow more dishes in the sink by the end of day. And, as you can see in 2 and 3, they're pretty similar. And this fourth one here is that I realized that this pattern was occurring, and I decided to actually take action by doing the BCP, focusing on this issue. And once I made this decision and committed to the BCP, I jumped down to where it's number 5 here, and then I planned and engaged in the BCP. And so I started, this was followed by an increase in my cleaning behaviors on a daily basis, and the apartment ended up cleaner every day. And as a result, I was much less annoyed with the overall state of the apartment, seeing that it was clean instead of dirty. And there's a lot more ABCs as this project kind of goes on, and we'll talk more about how these S deltas were turned into discriminative stimuli that actually ended up invoking the cleaning behaviors rather than these, problem, quote unquote, behaviors. So in order to actually make this happen, I started by collecting baseline data of my desired behaviors and alternate behaviors. Specifically, I kept track of 4 variables: the time spent partaking in cleaning behaviors, the time spent partaking in school behaviors, and the total time I had available in a day. And then the last one, the fourth one, was the overall clean rating of the apartment, and I kept track of this to monitor the effect of my cleaning behaviors. Seeing that, 2 people could spend 5 minutes cleaning, and one person could have a much cleaner result at the end of that 5 minutes than the other person. So I wanted to, kind of moderate that effect and make sure that I was actually cleaning in a way that would leave the apartment cleaner, actually. And so these 4 measures were tracked throughout the baseline and the intervention. And I was comparing the time spent cleaning and the overall clean ratings from the baseline to weekly intervention averages. And these progress was really assessed towards specific goals that I'll show you guys later. But I used multiple goals instead of just one goal during my intervention, which kind of classifies this BCP as shaping, seeing that the goals were updated every 3 weeks in successive approximation to reach my goal. My overall goal. Alright, so now I'm just going to talk to you about some of the problems I had at the beginning of this project. So initially, I had to come up with the operational definitions of, my desired behavior. And seeing that cleaning behaviors is a large cluster of a lot of different behaviors, I kind of included this generic definition here in this first bullet point where I say, cleaning behaviors include any behavior that leaves the apartment cleaner than it was prior. So this involves things like, doing laundry, doing dishes, straightening up the rooms, vacuuming, and whatnot. However, those are not the operational definitions. Instead of saying doing laundry, the operational definition would include all of the little behaviors that make up that one larger behavior. So things like picking up clothes off a floor, putting clothes into washer, adding soap to washer, selecting runtime and pushing start, and more. And so there's a lot of smaller behaviors that are clustered into my overall category of calling them cleaning behaviors. And so to be clear, I wasn't keeping track of particular cleaning behaviors. I was keeping track of the time I spent doing any of them. And then another issue that could be seen in my data collection process is inaccuracy of measurement. So I made the measurements at the end of every single day, and I documented them in an Excel chart. And instead of being tied to a stopwatch and hitting start and stop every time I was cleaning, that didn't really seem logical or reasonable to do that over the course of 15 weeks. So instead, I chose for this more approximation method, and while it's not entirely completely accurate, it's as accurate as it could be in a reasonable manner. Additionally, I have a live-in partner, and he is also, my roommate. So he provided verification and accountability of measures. So, anytime that the overall clean rating was documented, I asked him what he thought it was, and we kind of would come to a consensus on where we thought the apartment was at in terms of overall cleanliness. And lastly, I wanted to explain my inclusion of available time. So specifically involved in available time is it's excluding the time spent studying and excluding the time spent cleaning, but it's including any of the time spent in the apartment that did not involve human behaviors. And so the human stuff is I didn't count the time that was dedicated to showering or eating or sleeping in my available time. Available time was just the time spent not really doing anything specifically. I wasn't cleaning, I wasn't doing school stuff, but I was just sitting in my apartment, most likely watching Netflix. And I wanted to keep track of this to kind of motivate myself to see that I did have the available time to actually clean, and observing at the end of a day that I had spent 2 hours doing nothing, hypothetically, I could have been cleaning. So that variable, didn't necessarily affect anything else, but it was mainly just to keep track of, to observe what was going on in my own life. All right. So specifically, these are the goals now that I had talked to you earlier about. So this is what the shaping methods looked like when applied to my project. So I used the successive 4 goals here. First, focusing on the amount of time spent cleaning daily. So looking at goals 1 and 2 and going over to the column that says daily goal, you can see that I went from a 15-minute minimum cleaning at least 3 days a week to a 30-minute minimum cleaning at least 3 days a week. And I wanted to first up that amount of time spent cleaning before increasing the frequency of cleaning per week, which you can see that I did in goals 3 and 4, just to kind of get myself closer and closer to that goal. And in addition to these daily goals, I also kept track of the weekly goals using the overall clean rating to make sure that my apartment was getting cleaner and cleaner as the weeks were going on, and I was maintaining that same level of cleanliness throughout this project as it increased. And so the goal list changed every 3 weeks, as you can see, and the rewards that were provided were either a glass of wine for achieving the daily goal or a going out to dinner for achieving the weekly goal. And in order to kind of create establishing operations and add some motivation to make the reinforcers more potent, there was accountability through my live-in partner and accountability through class expectations and accountability to myself. So by doing this project, by telling my boyfriend that I was doing this project, by having the professor, Dr. Karl, monitor this project, and by monitoring this myself, I was more likely to partake in cleaning behaviors. Additionally, it just feels better to have a clean apartment, and so that kind of acted as a reinforcer, like a natural reinforcer, having, a clean environment around you, clean home, clean mind. And additionally, a bonus to all of this, which I guess could be counted as a consequence, would be the fact that I can welcome people to my apartment without there being any shame about, having my clothes on the floor or something like that. So there was a lot of different things that motivated me throughout this project, in addition to the specific rewards that I was giving myself. And the main goal of this project is to develop the habit of cleaning after myself every single day, rather than just doing it on occasion. And you'll see in this next slide where we'll kind of talk about the the baseline and compare it to the intervention. So in terms of other variables, as I had mentioned, I kept track of my school, my time spent doing school, and then my total available time. And I just wanted to see if there was any effect that would occur between them, see if I was doing 3 hours worth of schoolwork on one day, if that meant that I wasn't going to do any cleaning. However, there was not really an effect like I expected there to be. So, all right, so graph number 1. First, we're going to look at my time spent cleaning and, compare each intervention phase to the baseline. So as you can see in the baseline, there are dramatic peaks occurring actually on the weekends. I'm not sure if you can tell that, but so I would go a whole week without cleaning and then would only clean if I absolutely needed to. So that means, I didn't have any dishes to put food on, or I didn't have clean clothes to put on, or if I had somebody coming to the apartment, I would clean. And this baseline is only 3 weeks long, so you can't really get the full idea, but I would go, 2 or 3 weeks without doing anything cleaning-wise, especially over the break that preceded this baseline period. However, throughout this project, I was able to slowly increase you can see that the peaks are slowly starting to happen more frequently. So at first they're going up to about, 15, because that was goal 1 was 15 minutes of cleaning 3 days a week. And then goal 2 was 30 minutes of cleaning 3 days a week. And then you can start to see, 15 minutes of cleaning 6 days a week. So there's only occasional drops down to 0, which is good. That's what we want. And then in this 4th phase here, you can see that the average is more consistently around, 30 or so with occasional drop downs. But in this, follow-up section, you can kind of see where I'm okay with the fact that I am not reaching my 30 minutes minimum every day. I planned on that happening. I overshot with that stage 4 because I really wanted to fall between 15 minutes and 30 minutes of cleaning every single day. The main part is that I really just want to get comfortable with, or wanted to get comfortable with cleaning every day. So in addition to monitoring the time spent cleaning and increasing that frequency gradually, I also kept track of my overall cleanliness, and this was kind of monitored in terms of the weekly goals. So during the baseline, you can see the very sporadic state of the apartment started at about 40%, and then it spiked up to 60, then drops down, and it spikes back up to 75, and it was just way sporadic. There was never a consistent level of cleanliness in the apartment. So as part of the intervention, I set a minimum average that I needed to reach during each intervention phase. So this first one had an average of 60 that I needed to reach, and I did not reach this goal on the first week of intervention phase 1. However, I was a lot closer that second week, so the second and third week of intervention phase 1, so talking about this part of the graph here. It was a lot easier to reach that goal since I had already gotten the apartment up to a certain level at the end of that first week. And that trend was actually seen throughout. It was kind of hard the first week of each phase to get the apartment up to the minimum that it needed to be. However, I persevered and managed to kind of get ahead of this trend a little bit later on and try to get the apartment even cleaner than it needed to be and closer to that next goal that was coming. And over here now looking at the follow-up as the post-intervention phase here, you can see that I've maintained an actual good status of the apartment, well above 90, and it's a lot more consistent. There's, the spikes aren't dramatic. Any mess that is made is cleaned up that same day, and so, any percentage drops aren't dramatic, like I said. All right, so in terms of, whether or not there was actual success in this project, I began with the apartment at about 45% clean. That's at the end of the baseline period. And I've ended with the apartment at 90%. That's at the end of the intervention period. And additionally, like I said, the peaks were much more consistent, which is the goal. And this morning, which is 2 weeks after the intervention has ended, the apartment is at a 97% overall clean rating, and this also kind of had some situational factors play into it, seeing that my landlord had to come to my apartment yesterday. So I had to deep clean additionally, and on top of all my daily cleaning that I've been doing. But I definitely think that I have reached my goals. My apartment is well above 85% clean, which is my new goal to kind of maintain despite the fact that this project is over. And I am cleaning at least 15 minutes every day. And in order to kind of moderate this and make sure that I'm staying on top of this, I'm checking in with myself at the end of every week rather than checking in with myself at the end of every day to ensure that I am staying on top of this this change. So, in terms of difficulties and problems that I had throughout the project, it was pretty challenging to stay motivated, seeing that, it was pretty challenging to stay motivated because of stress levels, fluctuating throughout with school and with personal lives and things like that. But in order to keep my motivation fresh and right on top of it, I did lower my response effort meaning I bought some cleaning supplies so that I was more likely to clean because it was easier to clean with better, fancier supplies. And in addition to buying cleaning products to help with that motivation, I also adjusted my goals so that my daily goal reward wasn't just a glass of wine, but I also included things like soda, beer, cocktails, and like a variety of drinks so that I wasn't just having the same glass of wine every single night, because that got kind of boring. And seeing that I only drink water every day anyways, it was really nice to be able to go out and buy some sodas and enjoy a glass of, root beer in the evenings instead of a glass of wine or nothing. But additionally, a interesting thing was that distance learning took effect, and we were all locked down in our houses and have been now for about 2 months-ish, a month and a half. But I thought that this would mean that I would have a harder time cleaning. However, it kind of was the opposite. It was easier for me to clean. Like every single morning I wake up and I clean the room that I'm in, the bedroom, and then at the end of every day I clean the living room before I go back to the bedroom. And also, I have a few pets and they cause a lot of the messes in the apartment. And so being here and witnessing a mess take place, like watching my cat knock over a glass of water or something, results in me partaking in cleaning behaviors more directly and more immediately, rather than if I'd been in class all day while a mess was made in the apartment and then I come home and see the mess. I'm gonna be at that point more kind of angry, I guess, and less likely to clean it up right away than I am if I watch it happen. So it actually had a positive effect on cleaning. That was good. And in terms of future direction, we've kind of talked about this a little bit. My plan is to keep the apartment above 85% clean and continue daily cleaning. And I'm not going to be, on top of myself with an Excel sheet the same way I have been this time. But I am going to keep tracking my data weekly on my phone to make sure that I'm not going, days or weeks without cleaning anything. And I've asked my live-in partner to stay accountable to make sure that I don't let this habit, fall by the wayside. And overall, I've benefited from an improved environmental status. And so it's really helped clear my mind, and I've thoroughly enjoyed having a clean apartment now, which is something that I never thought that I would care about. But so overall things have been good. And over the course of this project, I did learn that using drinks, like specialty drinks, and dinner as a motivation really worked for me, because I'm a foodie. I really like being able to go out to eat, and it made it made the drink taste better, it made the food taste better because I had earned it. There was more value in it. Additionally, I noticed that it was hard to keep that same motivation over, 15 weeks, especially with stress kind of fluctuating that. However, by, by manipulating these rewards and making it to where it was something that I would want. Like when I stopped wanting that glass of wine every night and changing it to where I could have, a soda instead, that really helped keep that same motivation throughout this project. But I definitely think it was worth it despite any challenges that I was faced. I'm really happy with where I've landed in terms of this project, and I think that the most challenging thing is going to be the maintenance aspect from here on out, because summer is different than school. It's less structured time-wise, and I really just need to make sure that as my day-to-day life might change, I don't lose this cleaning habit that I've developed. All right, so that has been my behavior change project. If you have any questions, I'm aware that this is not a live broadcast, so if you want to comment on this post, I will turn my notifications on and I will make sure I get back to you ASAP. Thank you so much for viewing. Goodbye.